Hello there, Genshin crew. As the holidays near and sickness falls upon us, myself included, I wanted to remind everyone that you, right now, can buy
Come on, let's get
this
moving. We're not frozen in
underrated,
place after all.
underutilized, awesome 4-star character, Kaeya. He's worth it. You should buy him. So I wanted to talk about good team comps, artifacts, overall usage. I want to talk about how powerful he is and why you should buy him. So thanks for clicking on the video. Let's get to the fun stuff. Alright, Kaeya is an on-field, off-field cryo applicator. He has a ton of versatility and utility with his team comps and his artifacts. And he's one of the few units who you don't have to stress a 4-piece on most of your builds, and a 2-piece can be extremely viable for most, if not all, of the builds, which is pretty rare. Skadoosh. So as you saw, I purchased this one. I am now up to C4. Now C4 doesn't really do too much. It deals with like creating a shield when he is really close to death, but if someone one-shots him, it doesn't save him. However, C2 increases the duration of your burst up to a total of 15 seconds as long as you're killing an enemy. Now, if you're doing a freeze team and you have multiple groups of enemies, that can last the entirety up to 15 seconds. Now, if you're facing one boss, this will, this won't affect you as much. However, it's nice to know that for big crowds and crowd control, this can be active for up to 15 seconds, which is crazy. And you don't have to have Kaeya out. You can be killing people with other units. Now his C6 is where you really shine with his damage because it generates an additional icicle and he regenerates 15 energy. So I have bought most of these in the shop because there are people who probably don't even have him past C0. The weapons and the artifacts are a very broad category, so I'm going to break it down as well as I can. For the early account people, the ones that don't have a lot that they're working with, for the artifacts, you can use Exile for his energy recharge. You can do the Gambler to increase his skill damage. Resolution of Sojourner for more attack percent. Now these are all 2 pieces, okay? So these are all 2 pieces. Scholar, also good for energy recharge. So if you want to mix 2 pieces of Gambler or Braveheart with Exile or Scholar, so you see where I'm going? So you need attack percent, a little bit of energy recharge if you need it, and elemental damage as needed, especially for younger accounts, okay? So don't be afraid to level into your Kaeya. You will be able to use him for long term. As long as you can give him an attack percent sword or an energy recharge sword with an attack percent timepiece or an energy recharge timepiece. And if you have a Favonius, depending on how high your crit rate is, you can do a crit rate or crit damage helmet. For me, using Favonius works out really well. But if I wanted to have him do a lot more damage and I wasn't using Jean for a comp, I switch him over to Primordial Jade Cutter or the Mist Splitter. Now, I have been playing for a long time, so I have all these 5 stars. If you don't have all these 5 stars, Ishin right here, which you get after the 2.8 quest with Kazuha, is one of the best weapons that you can give Kaeya, and it's free to play. So giving him Ishin, or even something like Lion's Roar, Sacrificial Sword, Favonius Sword, even Harbinger of Dawn, depending on your team comps, are all going to be just fine. And any of the Battle Pass swords, because they all have crit rate. Now you might max out a little bit more on the crit rate. You may have to switch over to a crit damage circlet. So just make sure you're not overcapping it and wasting substats where you could use them elsewhere. You have freeze teams, which include Kaeya, which include Hydro. Typically, this third slot is a flex for another Hydro, another Cryo, and then you need a grouper such as Animo. You swirl them, you group them, everything freezes. Now you can't freeze bosses, remember that. However, with the freeze team, comes the Blizzard Strayer. And if you have a good Blizzard Strayer set, the artifacts give you a 20% crit rate boost when they're affected by cryo, and another 20% when they are frozen. So if you can keep the enemies frozen with enough hydro, then you can focus on making your crown a crit damage instead of crit rate. So the freeze teams for your artifacts. If you're later in the game, 4-piece Blizzard Strayer is going to the best. However, you can do 2 pieces of Blizzard Strayer, and a lot of these other 2-piece artifacts are going to be just as fine. So Emblem of Severed Fate, if you're running an attack percent weapon and you need a little bit more energy recharge. You also can do Gladiator's Finale or any of the other ones that give you a attack percent boost, because his skill and burst are based off of attack. So getting this attack percent will definitely help you do more damage when you're using those cryo abilities. So for me, I'm using attack percent. It's got a smidgen, a little bit energy recharge, but I'm using the Favonius Sword because it is crazy good with energy particles. And oh, that's why I have the crit rate hat on, because of the Favonius Sword. Crit rate hat helps me proc Favonius Sword energy particles so I can shift them to other units as needed. Now, reverse melt. That is when you make things go boom with fire. Reverse melt, very powerful, very powerful. All right, so typically with reverse melt, Bennett being on the team will help drastically because it applies that pyro field that can be picked up, especially if you have a swirler or an animal unit to pick it up. Reverse melt is where you can have some fun with Kaeya, and instead of putting him on a normal Blizzard Strayer set, you can do all of the EM artifacts like Gilded Dreams. You could also do a 4-piece Gilded Dreams. You could do the Wanderer's Troop, 2-piece. You can even mix and match here if you're doing reverse melt, EM, with other 2-piece sets. Now, this also goes for the Blizzard Strayer set as well. However, with the freeze teams, the 4-piece Blizzard Strayer is the best. But if you can get better substats with Noblesse Oblige, if you're running him for a support role, you can get 2-piece or the 4-piece. Now, the 4-piece Noblesse is only good for one character. Okay, if you have multiple characters running 4-piece Noblesse, excuse me, it's not going to stack off each other. If you didn't have a 4-piece Gilded Dreams, you could go 2-piece Gilded Dreams, 2-piece Noblesse, any of the 2 pieces for energy recharge, any of the 2 pieces for attack percent, or you could do Blizzard Strayer too to increase your cryo damage. Now, depending on what weapon you use, you can give him an elemental sword, and you could also give him an elemental mastery timepiece. Now, you still want to do the cryo goblet, and you still want to do crit damage or crit rate hat, but giving that extra EM will help your reverse melt procs do a lot more damage. Now, you can run him as physical. Now, for that, you probably want to get the best sword you can, and you can run any of the 2-piece attack percent sets and the Pale Flame 2-piece. Now, technically, 4-piece Pale Flame is the best if you're running him as a physical damage dealer, your main DPS. But if you have good substats on your 2 pieces with physical damage and other 2-piece attack percents, then it's going to be better for you in the long term. So you don't have to force the 4-piece Pale Flame. Just make sure when you're running physical, you have an Electro unit that helps you get Superconduct. And there are a couple other units you can put with someone who's doing physical damage to help them do more damage, such as Mika, Zhongli for the defense shred. Okay, Mika and Zhongli are probably the top 2, and Yunjin. Those are probably the top 3 units that you'll hear people talk about when people are mentioning trying to do some type of physical damage. All right, and now you get into the fun, crazy stuff where you have Kaeya and you are leading him with his ability and you're doing some kind of burn or some kind of fridge comp. Now, the fridge comp deals with Nahida or another Dendro unit procking blooms with also procking the cryo application that Kaeya gives you. And this fourth slot can be any number of boosters or groupers or extra any of these stats. Now the burn is where Bennett comes in.
You want me on your team?
And he will cause, it's basically like, I call it a rainbow team, where you just get a little bit of everything. You have reactions going all over the place. You have burning, you have blooming, you have fridge bursting, like things get nuts. You have melts here. This one can be a lot of fun. It's a little chaotic. Don't expect to be able to proc things extremely well. Everything's just gonna montage mix together. Okay, so I think that about covers it. I will cut this as short as I can. If you want a better in-depth analysis for Kaeya and his usage, I'll link the Sevi Plays video down in the comments if you've seen it before, or if you want to go over it. Whew, that was a lot. I'm trying to get sick, so I'm gonna go drink some coffee and chill out. Hope you enjoyed the video. You can tell me in the comments below if this helped you. If you liked the revisit to a character that maybe you forgot about. So I hope you picked him up in the shop. He's worth it. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Subscribe if you like Genshin stuff or other gacha games. So take care.